Welcome to another episode of Red Lotus Life. And I'm very excited because today's topic, we're actually going to be answering a question about jealous partners and how we actually stopped attracting that pattern into our lives. It's a good topic. It's a
It
good
is,
question.
it is a good question, and that's what I was going to say. That is actually a question that has come into our field recently that we would like to respond to.
hmm It's so good because, I mean, it's so layered, right? We know this. It's so layered with everything. But as this question came in. By the way, we love the questions, so keep bringing the questions in. We love the questions because as we were contemplating, or I was contemplating this, and we were preparing for this episode, I was like, yeah, jealous partners, like that was a thing for me. It once I started to actually date and be in relationships and things like that, I mean, it was consecutive at pretty much every relationship I've ever been in. I haven't been in very many, but the relationships that I have been in, yeah, there were jealous partners.
Yeah, I think that, that's a fairly common thing for us to run into, and I've definitely had that experience myself. And I think certain unhealthy relationship dynamics and patterns and conditioning that we have found ourselves in actually exacerbated sort of the jealous aspects of things. What are
hmm
your thoughts there?
it's fascinating because I kind of went into like, well, why? Like, why did that happen? It's always such a journey, right? All of these questions, because we're so far removed from that now that it takes time for me to even go back to that way of thinking and back into that lived experience because that's not even part of my awareness anymore. But then if we look at like all the layers of everything, it's like, okay, so why was that? We know that childhood molds our behaviors, like what we see is modeled. And I know that with each of those relationships, it did come out that they were in an abusive environment in one way or another. So when we're talking abuse, it's like there's so many um, forms of it, right? So some people think, oh, abuse is just the violent part, but no, there's so many different forms of it. And so whenever I think about my relationships and who I was in a relationship with, every single one of them experienced some form of that. And so that's actually what was modeled to them. And then I kind of went back into mirror theory because that's what we do as spiral pracs, right? Is we practice mirror theory. So then I kind of went, okay, so what about me? What was modeled for me where I found myself in these relationships? And I thought that that was okay because I've actually never been a jealous person. But I definitely thought that was okay. In fact, if anything, we look at society, right? And the conditioning of society. And it's like, if somebody's jealous, then, or at least this is what my perspective was back then, especially being young and starting, to have relationships and stuff. It's like, well, if somebody's jealous, then that means they really like me. That was kind of the perspective I was coming from as a young teen and young adult. I don't know. What was your experience?
That was my experience as well. When we kind of think, oh, it's so sweet, they care, it makes them like maybe they want to pay a little bit more attention to you, that kind of thing. And really, what I found is exactly what you were just sharing. It's the lived experience, it's the patterns that have been represented to them, and it's a lack of emotional maturity, it's lack of emotional intelligence, it's a lack of self-esteem actually when jealousy is being exhibited.
hmm Yes. And so, yeah, that's exactly what was going on. Rejection, right? I'm going to lose something that I love, right?
Mhm.
I'm going to lose something that I love, so I'm going to do this. Anyway, so now me getting back to like, I'll just share my process of how I did this, and you can tell me like if you resonate with this or not. But
Okay.
I started to like go, well, how was I modeled to think like what part of my childhood was modeled to me, right? With relationships. If I'm going back to like love story movies or um, romance novels or anything like that, right? At that age, that's what was modeled to me. But then I go, well, what about real life? Because what part of that, once it started to get into the unhealthy and the real jealous part and the actual abusive part and controlling and all those things, what part of that actually made me think that that was okay? Because then that's me and that's my accountability, right? So I started looking at, well, what was modeled for me? Because, and I want to talk about like my current relationship is the complete opposite. And I thought my current relationship, whenever I started to, you know, date my husband and everything like that, I thought our relationship was toxic and unhealthy because it didn't have those things. So thank goodness I had a good friend who was like, Lori, this is the first healthy relationship you've been in since I've known you. So don't sabotage this because I was totally like, no, no. And no, he doesn't love me. He just says he loves me. Look at how he's okay with this and that and whatever. And I realized then it was the jealousy part because it was the first time I hadn't been love bombed. It was the first time I didn't have someone that was jealous. So then I go, we can talk about that in here in a second because that's a whole nother thing. But I went back to like the whole what was modeled for me, right? I didn't have healthy relationships modeled for me. I grew up, I had a parent that was really good at making sure we were okay, really good at making sure we were safe, really good at making sure everything was smooth and, you know, everything was good. But we had another parent that was like in and out of our lives. And so, like, I'd go to school one morning and everything's fine. And then I come home from school and everything's not fine. Like that other parent's nowhere to be seen, or we're moving, or we're this, or we're that. And what I realized was like, oh, I actually, and everything, life went on as if nothing happened. Like it wasn't talked about. It wasn't, um, like we just didn't know. And we just went on with every shoot, you know, parent was really great in making sure that our lives were fine even though it was totally upside down. And so I sit there and I go, all right, so what was that modeled for me? Well, what was modeled for me there is that this is normal. Like any kind of upheaval or anything like that, it's normal. If somebody all of a sudden isn't there, that's normal. And then I started to look at all the people that modeled relationships for me when I was young, because it always goes back to our childhood, right? Always does. Like what were we modeled? What did we see? And I never actually saw love, like actual love, like actions of affection. Like I'm not saying I wasn't loved. I'm saying in a romantic relationship, I never actually saw that. It was more of just things happened and it was just never talked about type thing because everything was fine. Everything was always fine.
Hmm.
And so now when I look at, well, this was modeled for me. So this is how when something happens in a jealous relationship, like a jealous partner, and something gets super crazy, now all of a sudden, well, we just don't talk about it. Like we just don't talk about it. We act like nothing happened, right? And so
Right.
that's actually how I ended up with these patterns. And then I'm really excited to share more about how I broke it because that doesn't happen anymore. So anyway, do you resonate at all with like how my process went and how to figure out figure out all of this? Because it is hard for us now because we don't live that way anymore. So it's hard.
Yeah, I do resonate with your process, and I resonate a lot with the way that you describe the family dynamic. I I will say that in my process, I don't recall a lot of details around anything specific to a jealous dynamic, but what I do recall are the unhealthy relationship dynamics. And it was kind of the same thing. These things happen. There might be a big blow up, there's chaos, blow up, and there's chaos. And then all of a sudden it gets swept under the rug. It's never talked about. It's what happens in this house stays in this house, that kind of scenario. And so, while I don't particularly remember anything specific to jealousy, I do see the patterns that would lead to jealousy.
Okay. So I didn't see any jealousy at all either.
Yeah, I don't recall.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't see anything like that. And so it was really interesting because I didn't see healthy behaviors when I did receive that, right? I did receive that whole like, oh, the jealousy stuff. And I thought I was special because I didn't see what healthy dynamics were like. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Um, you okay, so yeah, when you aren't modeled healthy relationship dynamics, then you never know what is healthy. And you just continue to show up repeating the exact same patterns that you were modeled. And so if you don't have like a reference point, if you don't have a reference point for what is healthy, then you don't know the difference. And so
The
go ahead.
reference point was the movies and the books and
Yes, exactly.
that's actually what ended up being the reference point. And so when it happened, I was like, oh, this is what it is. This is what love looks like. This is what love feels like.
Hmm. And then what happens in the movies when there's jealousy? It's actually the unhealthy dynamic that is the result, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So this is actually a really cool topic. It's a really cool, like, it's layered. And the reason why we're bringing this up right now is because we want you, the viewers and the listeners, to start to contemplate what was modeled for you in your childhood. What were the relationships in your childhood? What was considered healthy? Because we're all about conditioning and releasing and unweaving conditioning. And that is actually how we break the pattern, which is why I'm sitting there going, gosh, it was so hard to even think that way because I don't recognize that person. I don't recognize that girl, you know. But then now, was there anything else you wanted to share about that? Because I kind of wanted to talk about how the pattern could have continued. I could have totally sabotaged my relationship.
Go ahead, talk about it.
Okay, so I could have totally sabotaged this relationship that I'm in now because it was the very first one that I actually started to realize some of this. So here I am, like I'm a single mom and I'm out of, I've had a few relationships even after, right? It just continues. The pattern just continues, continues, continues. And then I get to this one that I'm currently in now. And I remember going, he doesn't, I didn't feel special because there was no jealousy. And I remember talking to my friend about it and being like, I don't think this is a good relationship. I don't think this is anything that I want to pursue anymore. Because I literally was going, I don't want to waste my time in this or invest anything more into this if this isn't going to be a thing. I mean, that really was my thought process back then. I wasn't going to just do things for fun or whatever. And so I sat there and I went, and she's like, what? Why? Like, this is such a great guy. This is such a great guy. What are you talking about? And I said, yeah, he doesn't care. I have seen zero signs of jealousy. There has been anything like this, da 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 da, because that's what I had been conditioned to think love was. I'm like, he doesn't care. He doesn't tell me how he feels about me. He does this, doesn't that. Like, no, it's fine. Like no, he's doing his own thing. And she's like, Lori, this is the first healthy relationship I've seen you in. And what that showed me was it was also kind of boring. That was another thing because there wasn't chaos. There wasn't dysfunction. There
Hmm.
wasn't any of that. And so I was thinking like, well, maybe I'm not actually attracted to this. Maybe I don't actually want. So there was a couple of things that were going on there for me that I could have broken or I could have kept the cycle going by breaking up with him, getting into another relationship that was exciting because they were jealous, that had the chaos, had the dysfunction, had all the things that I had been experiencing my entire life up until that point. But because I had a good friend that actually said, wait, what? No. give it a go. I mean, look at us now. Like this has been a healthy relationship the whole time.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, so this is where I'd like to bring in like, okay, so this is what peace feels like. You know, now you have a new reference point for what peace feels like, for what nervous system regulation feels like, for what emotional maturity looks like and feels like, emotional intelligence, like all of those things right there. And because the chaos didn't exist, it's like, oh, like we have to kind of like settle into, oh, this is what healthy is. This is what healthy looks like and feels like.
Yeah.
Just like breathe into it.
Yeah. And so, yeah. So when we're talking about like that type of thing, like now fast forward a few years to the spiral coming into my life. So like how I actually broke it because with every relationship there's always up and downs, right? But with the spiral, what the spiral showed me there, in fact, when I was going through the spiral, all of this came up again, as you know,
Hmm.
because you knew
Hmm.
me back then. So, as you know, all of this came up again, and I was literally questioning the relationship again. And the reason why I was questioning the relationship again is because now, like going through the spiral, we actually do touch on love, the actual emotion. We touch on 22 of the most common human emotions, and we decondition those emotions. And so, whenever I went through all of these emotions, and I decondition that, I have this authentic connection to self. So now I'm like, okay, now I know what this means to me. Like I know what all this, I didn't have it modeled healthy here. I had society modeling it for me over here, just, whatever, right? And then going, but I know I'm in a healthy relationship, but is this one that I want to invest in now that I know what this means to me? And it was
Hmm.
crazy because I was like kind of questioning the whole thing. But now that I actually know what that is for me, it's like, oh no, our relationship is stronger than ever. Turns out I did want this relationship. Turns out I did want to invest in it even more. And now it's like I'm all in, where before I was just kind of moving along. I mean, yes, I loved him. Yes, all these things. Yes, yes, yes. But when you have a new reference point for love that's unique to every single person,
Hmm.
that's different.
It is. It's completely different. And it's so fascinating as I've been listening to you share your experience, and I've heard this experience before, but I'm thinking about now, what has my experience been? Um, and I can remember being a young adult and even, teenager, probably 16, 17, 18. And I actually remember conditioning myself to not be jealous.
Mm,
I have never really expressed, not that you don't ever feel it, just like a little, twinge of jealousy or whatever. But I very clearly conditioned myself um, to be okay with partners, friend groups, and people who were maybe watching certain things or listening to certain things, and I would act like it didn't bother me,
mhm. I've been
so that
there.
I wouldn't be judged, or I wouldn't be, criticized, or there wouldn't be something derogatory coming my way. Um, Yeah, I haven't thought of that in so long. So that's a whole different rabbit hole. But then on the other side of that is I did find myself in relationships with people who exhibited jealous behavior. And again, it doesn't excuse the behavior, but it does show what their lived experience were, what their lived patterns were, their conditioning, and where, there might be low self-esteem, there might be low self-confidence, there might be, I would even say the thing that I was thinking about earlier is that kind of textbook, if you can't, if I can't have you, then no one can kind of thing mentality, right? And so that actually led to some pretty disruptive situations.
Hmm. Let's go into that a little bit because that's
Okay.
another thing, right? I mean, that's actually what, so the actual question was, I keep finding myself in these relations, the pattern, right? The pattern is jealous, being in relationships with jealous partners. And that's the other thing that ends up happening, right? When it gets to the extreme part of that,
Hmm.
which I've experienced, and so has this person that asked the question, it's like, how do I keep finding that? Because it's even after the relationship ends, it's that whole, if I can't have you, no one can.
Right. Hmm.
Yeah. So I don't, what do you want to share about that? I'd love to hear your experiences with anything that you'd like to share.
Well, I was just going to share one specific experience and how this can sort of sneak up on you, because it was a relationship that I had already been out of for quite some time. It was a relationship that, there had been some repair to some extent. I was feeling safe around communication. I was feeling safe to be in the same environment. And, the situation came out of nowhere, like blindsided, completely and totally blindsided. I had simply left the room, left my phone in a position where it was easily picked up, it was gone through, and this person had found out that I had been dating. Again, been out of this relationship outside of, like parenting situations, drop off situations, and this actually was one of those situations. And, you know, all of a sudden, this person sees, oh, she's been dating, and it's assault right then and there.
Mm.
And it was a very traumatic experience. And, that was again the textbook situation of if I can't have her, then no one can. So the unfortunate thing is that when you have people who are operating from a place of just, it's the inability to self regulate, in essence, is the inability to self regulate. And so in that moment, they just completely and totally lose any sense of regulation whatsoever. Um, and if they aren't doing the work, here we go with repeating patterns. If they're not doing any work around that, are unable to acknowledge or take accountability, then yes, this pattern is going to be continued
Mhm.
until the lesson is learned, until the pattern is in the conscious awareness. And if they refuse to take accountability or can't see it, then you have to expect that it's not going to change.
Yeah. Yeah. You just described what this person who asked the question like has experienced, right? The same thing. And here's the thing, gender doesn't matter.
Right.
Gender doesn't matter with this. And so it's not your typical like that's why we talk about these things. It's because it happens in so many different ways and to so many different people and it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter gender, it doesn't matter class of people, it doesn't matter anything. Any of those things don't matter. And that's why this person asked the question because they are experiencing that. There are protective orders in place and but also still experiencing it and noticing that with each relationship, it's getting more and more extreme, which kind of also happens, right? Once we experience it. Well, for me, once I experienced this, like one thing, then the next time it would be a little worse, a little worse, a little worse. It always happens over time.
Hmm.
I'm sorry that that's what you experienced because I've been there too, and it's hard. It's hard whenever you think you can trust, leave a room, and then find out there's alternative motives.
Yeah. It is, and I'm sorry that that's been your experience as well. And also, my heart goes out to anyone out there who has had that experience. Um, There was something I was gonna share and I've lost it, so I may have to come back to it, but um it was about patterns and specific to what you were just sharing. I don't remember, Lori, what it was.
Well, it might come back because I'm like, what was I even
Okay.
sharing?
You're
I
talking
couldn't.
about the person who asked the question and their experience.
Oh, and just how the part about where it has continued, like it has just continued. Like this person doesn't even want to begin dating until the situation is diffused. And it's been a
Mm,
long time too, because it keeps happening. Like it just keeps happening.
okay, so that's what I was gonna say. Okay, so going back to it continues until the unconscious pattern is brought into the awareness, and that's exactly what I would say to this person is, what is it? Can they identify the pattern?
Yeah. And that's, yeah.
Have they been able to identify the pattern?
No, that's why they're asking. Like, how do I stop this? How do I stop attracting jealous partners into my life, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, exactly. And then,
Yeah.
and then the other question that I had whenever the question came through was then, what is it about the person who we're calling jealous that is causing them to feel jealous? Like, what has their past situations looked like? Have they been cheated on? Have they been in unhealthy relationship dynamics? Has is that the pattern that they actually witnessed themselves? And then um, what is it about their woundedness and their conditioning that is mirroring something in you or that person who's experiencing this again and again that you can identify? That's a really good place to start.
Yeah, and you just nailed it because that is what I mean, we always look at, well, what have they experienced, and
Hmm.
having for me, and I know this sounds so crazy, but this is what this work does. It's so awesome because when we're able to neutralize our relationship to emotions, now we're able to come from a place of sovereignty, right? And we're
Right.
able to look
Hmm.
at things from a very different lens, a lens of compassion and empathy and everything else. And that is, everyone always says that. They're like, how do you have compassion, forgiveness, empathy for someone who's harmed you? But when we look at what they've experienced, what has created these things within them, right? It's protection mechanisms and coping skill, coping
Mechanism.
mechanisms and everything else. It's like we've gone over this over and over again. We have tons of episodes on this. Even we have people who have come on who have been offenders in this way and they share their experiences as well. It's like when we can see that, now we can actually go, okay, yeah, but I thought I was different because that's usually what happens if we're not
Hmm.
doing the work, right? We have to be doing our own work as well. So, like for me, I was like, yeah, I knew all those things and I thought I was different. I thought I was different. And the reason why is now it goes back so fun. Well, this work is so fun because we can look at that and then go, well, how does that apply to me? I thought I was different. And now we do that work, right? Of, well, what's happened with me to where and it's that whole mirroring ping pong thing that you're talking about right now. How is, how am I now? Because we're talking about attraction even, right? We're like
Hmm.
attracting patterns. We're actually using that word because we will attract the same thing. We'll attract the same situation until we shift, until we start to operate differently,
Hmm.
until we start to notice the patterns in real time and start to do something different. We are going to find ourselves continuing the same relationships.
Yeah, it's literally scientifically, we won't go into this right now, but thinking about mirror neurons and literally like the positive and negative poles, right? I mean, we literally do attract those things until we no longer are carrying those patterns. And then at that point, it's like, okay, what do I need to do to shift? What do I need to do to release the patterns on a DNA level, create new neural pathways in order to never repeat that pattern again?
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
I
go
didn't want
ahead.
to interrupt you, but I do have something.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so now we're talking about that. So now let's talk about, like I mentioned, that it was the spiral, right? The spiral, I end up deconditioning my relationship to love and all of that. I have an authentic knowing of what that means to me. And then now here I am questioning my very healthy relationship, right?
Hmm.
And the reason why is because now I'm like, oh, I saw when I was going through that, we had already been in this relationship for a while. I saw my patterns showing up in my relationship now. And so when I was able to decondition my
Hmm.
patterns, I saw all my emotional baggage and all the shit and everything else that I brought into this relationship. And that's when I was like, I'm questioning this. Like, did I go into this now that I know authentically what love and marriage and relationship and all that things means to me and what I would like to create? That's whenever I had to literally sit back, probably for like a year. And then together, we actually cultivated an even deeper understanding of what actually is our relationship because I was creating a new reference point for myself.
Hmm.
And then that was really cool because we have a different relationship now than we did prior to because I show up different. Well, he does too, but I'm just saying I held myself accountable for these unconscious patterns that I was bringing into my relationship that was from all of those other, like the past relationships.
Yeah, I mean, the new reference point makes all the difference in the world. And I love that that was your experience. And so for me, my experience is a little bit different outside of the fact that, yes, I've been able to identify all of these patterns. And so now I know that moving forward, that's not going to be something that's going to be acceptable for me in my life and my relationships. And I will have a new reference point for what safety looks like and what I'm available for. Like when you have done this work and you're in your sovereignty, you're in your power, your boundaries are strong. And again, like boundaries are really wrapped up in all of this, right? I know I'm not going to be walking into um, a situation with blinders on, basically. I'm not going to be walking into that situation with blinders on. There's going to be boundaries, there's going to be things put into place to make sure that there is safety created. Right? There's a lot of different ways that you can look at it, but um, as it goes back to something we were actually talking about in a previous episode where we were talking about I'm losing it, Lori.
That's okay. It's what happens, right? When we start to get into it, because now we're seeing like all the things.
Oh
We
my
have a
goodness.
lot of episodes that actually talk about this. I Can I say something?
Yes,
Can I
please.
share some? Okay.
Yeah.
So you nailed it when you talked about safety. And
Hmm.
you're like, I now know because I'm going to be like, it's going to be a relationship that's safe, right?
Hmm.
I had never experienced safety. I will tell you this, right? I had never experienced safety until this relationship. And then when I went through the spiral, I started realizing this is what's cool about this work because you start to see yourself in all these patterns, right? And I started to see where I wasn't creating a safe space for him. And so once I started to create a safe space for him, and then now there's a safe space for me as well, it's like, oh my gosh, the deepening of these relationships. Well, I say these relationships, but our relationship, right? It's like the deepening of that relationship that we have now is something that I've never experienced. And I talk to the different people in my family, and they bring that up too, because they've been right there with me, right, along all the ride of all this stuff and my own experiences. And they do say that. They're like, you show up differently. Like you show up differently
Hmm.
in this way. And so safety's huge.
Safety is everything.
It is everything.
Hmm.
So can I ask you a question? How did you stop? Like, how did you, because I've seen, I've seen like you are a completely different person than, pre-spiral versus post-spiral. And then we continue to do this work. In fact, in Say Yes to Soul right now, we just finished with the intimate and romantic relationships. We're in
Hmm.
family relationships now. But I have seen you move through all of this. So how do you feel? What about the spiral when you're like, yeah, I know what I'm available for. I know what I can what I will tolerate and what I won't. I know my boundaries. I know this and that. And you know it without a doubt. Like you are
Hmm.
anchored, you're strong in that. So what about the spiral provided that for you?
Mm, the spiral provided the foundation. The spiral, like you always like to talk about the blanket. So we take that blanket and we shake up everything, right? And we create all of these new neural pathways. And that was just the tip of the iceberg. Because what has really done it has been the ongoing work. It has been continually taking step after step after step, continuing to do the work and continuing to use the tools of the spiral.
Mhm. What pattern do you think broke for you? Or not? Okay, I don't want to say what pattern. What conditioning do you feel fell away around love? Because we do continue to do the work, and that's why I say
Yeah.
it's so hard to even think back to who we were prior to this work. What was what conditioned pattern do you feel fell away and was unweaved? That neural pathway that was broken around not tolerating jealousy in a partner.
I would have to say self-confidence and self-esteem. Confidence and self-esteem, which is, that is literally part of the of what we clear in the spiral. So and then, okay, I'll even take it a step further if you really want to get into it. Guilt, shame, dogma. I mean, literally every single now that you've asked the question, I think every single level of the spiral can directly correlate to this one topic.
It really does. It really does because when we start to decondition all of that and then we start to have this strong foundation, like we know exactly who we are.
Yeah, exactly.
We know exactly who we are. We know exactly what we want. And we also live very intentional lives. And so when something is not, and we're also very aware of patterns, right? Always aware of these patterns. And the second we see those patterns now, and it's because we do the work, the second we see those patterns, we're like, nope. And we go this way, like, nope, creating something different.
Hmm. Yeah, so join us.
I know. I'm
Join us for
like,
group spiral.
I know. I mean, seriously, we're getting ready to start the next round of group spiral. And so, yeah, if anyone has any questions about the spiral, the only way that we can really talk about it is like you have to experience this work for yourself. And it's crazy the conditioning that you discover as you move through the spiral. And it really is guilt, shame, dogma, love, confidence, self-esteem, anxiety, grief. Like it's all of it, right? Peace.
Yeah.
When you decondition peace, and that's what happened for me. When I deconditioned peace,
Hmm.
I'm no longer the calm in the chaos. Yeah, that used to be peace for me. Be in the eye in the center of the storm, the calm and the chaos, right? I was
Hmm.
like, oh yeah, I'm so comfortable here. But now it's like, oh no, peace to
Mm.
me, it feels totally different. And I
Oh,
protect it with everything.
yeah. I mean, it's not even necessarily a reference point for peace. It's like it's night and day because being the calm in the storm, the calm in the chaos, there is no peace. It's a deception, right?
Total deception. It's a total illusion.
Yeah, yeah,
Especially for someone like you that lives where tornadoes come. Like you get it. And then you're like,
yeah.
oh, this is, we know what's coming, right? We know what's
Mhm.
coming because it's so peaceful right now.
Yep, that is, yes, it's so true. And then it takes you right back to, okay, what do I need to do to be safe?
Hmm.
It's like
Yeah.
it's the perfect analogy, I think.
Hmm. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to share about this?
Not this specifically, just definitely like, subscribe, share, and let us know if you have any questions.
Yeah, keep the questions coming because we love it. We love answering them. So, yeah, keep the questions coming. And yeah, we'd love for you to join us in Group Spiral. Okay.
Mhm.
So, I hope that answers the question. We'll see you next time.
Mhm.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.